The Akosombo Dam, a massive structure, a nationalist vision, and a deal that changed Ghana forever. This is the untold story of power and who really held it. In the 1960s, Ghana, the first sub-Saharan African country to gain independence, launched one of the most ambitious infrastructure projects in post-colonial Africa. President Kwame Nkrumah's vision went far beyond sovereignty. He imagined a transformed, modern Ghana, a beacon for the continent. At the heart of that dream was the Volta River Project, a massive hydroelectric scheme designed to power factories, energize an aluminum industry, and bring light to towns and villages across the country. The Akosombo Dam, the flagship of this vision, would create Lake Volta, one of the largest man-made lakes in the world. But in Nkrumah's eyes, it wasn't just for Ghana. It was a promise to power Africa's future. Bold dreams need funding. That's where things got complicated. I'm Dr. Christy Agau, a researcher and storyteller. If you're enjoying this content, go ahead and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and give it a like. Share it if it resonates, and most importantly, join the conversation in the comments. The heady days after independence. Excitement rippled across Africa. Ghana, newly sovereign, was ready to lead the continent into light, literally and figuratively. President Nkrumah believed Ghana could industrialize through energy sovereignty. He envisioned a nation that would electrify not just its homes and industries, but the entire African future. The Volta River Project, including the dam, a planned alumina refinery, and an aluminum smelter, was the cornerstone of that dream. It promised cheap, reliable hydroelectric power, a fully integrated Ghanaian-owned aluminum industry from bauxite mining to smelting, jobs for thousands, and growth in downstream industries, rural electrification to transform everyday life. This would be a symbol of African pride, development on African terms. This bold dream met with hard realities. To build the dam and anchor the aluminum smelter, Ghana needed capital, and fast. Such massive infrastructure required foreign financing. Enter the main players: the US government, the World Bank, and Kaiser Aluminum, a private American firm eager to lock in cheap, stable electricity for its smelting operations. Back then, funding rarely came without strings, and truly non-aligned capital was nearly impossible to find. Today's funders aren't always neutral, but they're more numerous, and that gives Africa more room to negotiate. Until the financing came with strings. The idea: Ghana would supply the electricity, Kaiser would build and run the smelter. On paper, shared risk, shared reward. But from the start, the balance was skewed. Even the World Bank had initially rejected the project, citing its high cost and limited national benefit. But US pressure, driven by the Cold War politics and strategic value of aluminum, pushed it through. In 1961, the deal was signed. The terms unequal. Kaiser received tax holidays, guaranteed electricity at a fraction of its cost, and the freedom to repatriate profits. Ghana got the loans, over 200 million in 1960s dollars, and none of the smelting profits. And the critical middle step, refining Ghana's own bauxite into alumina, never happened. It was a deal shaped not just by development ambitions, but by geopolitics and global markets, and the leverage Ghana didn't yet have. But one crucial piece was missing: the alumina refinery. Without it, Ghana couldn't process its own bauxite, and it wasn't an oversight, it was structural. So why wasn't it built? Because the costs were high, and the incentives for Kaiser and the financiers simply weren't there. Alumina refineries are capital intensive, polluting, and resource hungry. Kaiser already owned cheaper facilities abroad, so why build in Ghana? It wasn't profitable for the externals. The World Bank, US Exim Bank, and other lenders weren't eager either. Their priority was securing strategic materials for the West, not building African industrial independence. African industrial independence wasn't their goal. So the final contract allowed Kaiser to import alumina tax-free with no obligation to source or refine locally. Ghana had no leverage to insist. Ghana dreamed of a fully local aluminum industry, mining, refining, smelting, but it was reduced to mining the ore and paying the light bill. The aluminum value chain was broken before it even began. Ghana mined the bauxite, but exported it raw. The smelter, the high-value link, belonged to Kaiser. The best part belonged to Kaiser. No local refinery, no Ghana aluminum industry, no shared equity. Of the electricity that Akosombo generated, up to 80% flowed to the Valco smelter, not to Ghanaian homes or industries. The promise of rural electrification still largely a dream. Meanwhile, Ghana carried the financial burden alone. Debt repayment stretched across generations from 200 million then to over 1.8 billion today. The benefits mostly exported. Kaiser profited. Aluminum flowed to global markets. Ghana, the host, the visionary, the borrower, was left with displacement, debt, and deferred dreams. Beyond the debt, the human cost was deep. More than 80,000 people were displaced. Entire villages were submerged to create Lake Volta. Families scattered, livelihoods lost. Compensation was minimal. Resettlement often poorly executed. Yet Kaiser enjoyed cheap power, sweetheart terms, and the legal freedom to repatriate profits. But here is a deeper question. How did this happen? Nkrumah wasn't naive. He was pan-Africanist, anti-imperialist, and politically astute. So why such a lopsided deal? One answer: constraints. Cold War pressures, Bretton Woods conditionalities, U.S. interest in controlling the global aluminum supply. Ghana needed capital, and the pool of truly non-aligned financiers was vanishingly small. But to stop at this explanation would be too easy and too deterministic. Most African governments since has claimed, like Nkrumah, that their hands were tied. But leadership isn't just about resisting power. It's about choosing your dependency, negotiating your terms, knowing when to walk away. Today, the landscape is different. African nations have new actors to court: China, Gulf states, Brazil, African development banks, diaspora capital. The world has changed, so must the excuses. So I ask, was the Akosombo Project a step forward or a cautionary tale? A dream interrupted, or the cost of being first? My people, let's interrogate the past and build futures less beholden. If this episode spoke to you, don't forget to comment and join the conversation. And if you haven't yet, subscribe and tap the notification bell. Share this with someone who could be or should be a part of this dialogue. Till the next time.